This episode is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard of Anchor by Spotify, let me fill you in. So, Anchor has everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. You can record and edit your podcast straight from your computer or your phone, whichever works for you. And it's as simple as downloading the Anchor app or going to anchor.fm. And when hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. And the best part about Anchor is that it's 100% free. It's pretty much the ultimate podcast tool at the moment, and honestly, I haven't seen it getting enough attention. We use Anchor for this very podcast, and it has made things 10 times easier because, like I said, it's literally everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Again, go to anchor.fm or download the Anchor app to get started.
What's up, guys? This is Lucid Rain, and today we're going to talk about basically urban exploring and what could go wrong and what has allegedly went wrong for a lot of other people, and just the topic in general. So what brought this up was I was watching just a bunch of stories of the stuff people find and stuff, and there's some really strange stuff you find in I get when you're doing this if you do this as a thing you do often, the stuff you're bound to find weird stuff, it seems like. But there was actually a video where you might have even seen this video, it's pretty popular. They literally found a dead body, like an actual confirmed dead body. They weren't sure if it was real at first, and I don't remember who this was, what the channel was called, but they also uploaded this to YouTube, which is kind of insane that they were able to do that. But anyway, people thought it was fake, and then they actually got the authorities involved, and it was not fake. It was a legitimate dead body that they filmed on camera when they were exploring a building. It was hidden. It was it wasn't just laying out in the open or anything, but it was 110% real, which is the chances of that happening is probably incredibly low, but that's just terrifying.
Yeah, that's just pretty crazy. I mean, I have a couple that I could think off the top of my head. Not too many that were creepy, but there was one that was creepy where I feel like it depends on the context of what they're going there to do and what time they go. Because if they're going somewhere at the middle of the day, it's always eerie and you just have abandoned buildings.
Yeah.
With no one around. But if you're there at night,
yeah, that's definitely creepy. I mean, it's eerie no matter what time, in my opinion, but it's at night. It's
yeah,
it's so much worse.
There was one guy who slept in something called the Pink Room. It was a house, I think, somewhere in Canada that was abandoned. No one kind of knew, and people kind of know a little bit of the story and of who the guy was, and you can find notes that he wrote scattered throughout the house, and it sounds like the setup for point and click horror game.
Yeah, kind of does.
And there was a room that basically is an attic room that it's super weird, and you could tell that someone slept in there, and it's just one of those things where it doesn't feel like it should be a room, and it adds kind of the creepiness. And
that was the same building?
Yeah, and there was a bookshelf that hid this door, and while he was in there, the bookshelf that was in front of the door fell. So, he's in a pitch black room in an abandoned house.
What the fuck?
And just hears crashing and all sorts of shit.
That's terrifying.
He was by himself, yeah, and he was scared shitless.
I would be out of there. I mean, yeah, that's there's an explanation for it, but imagine hearing that at first, you'd be like, what in the world?
Yeah, I know that I can't remember. I think he heard more than just that. But I know that was the big thing, that the bookshelf literally fell out of nowhere.
That's weird as fuck. There was one story where they went into a place. I I don't even think it was a house. I think it was just some building. I don't even know what kind of building, but they found a huge pile of dead cats and dogs, like big dogs too, like fully grown big dogs just dead in a pile, like probably about like I don't know, probably like 10 of them, honestly. Like there was a lot of them there, and for some reason these particular people stayed in there after seeing that and kept walking around, and then they found somewhere else that there was dead birds. So someone somewhere is like collecting them was collecting them for some reason. I mean, I don't know if that's like some cult activity type stuff, or like I I don't know. That's just like,
Sounds
if
like
I saw
someone who
that, I would
has
be gone.
some mental disorder going on.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
mean, probably. I mean, I don't know what reason you could have to to be doing that. Cuz think about it. That person would have to be seeking out these animals and bringing them back there. Cuz those animals aren't just walking into that place, I assume, right? So who would be doing that and why? Like
Yeah,
that's a weird thought.
yeah, it's a scary thought because anytime you go exploring something that's abandoned, you run the risk of someone else exploring something that's abandoned, or someone who has nowhere to go and knows that, no one will come here.
Yeah, and I mean, they're probably thinking they can do whatever weird thing that they want to do because no one's ever going to find out because they're in a random abandoned building. Who would ever find out? Little do they know, some stupid teenagers are walking in there, like exploring stuff, and they just find this person's hideout.
Yeah, I mean,
Unfortunately,
there's an abandoned mansion in Avondale that they kind of have had so many people go into it that it's just open and no one even bothers to kind of lock it or like do anything to keep people out because it's, been abandoned for so long, just had
yeah.
constant people messing around. And yeah, it's not in a great area.
I feel like that would
The
definitely
life,
have some like homeless people or something.
yeah,
A
there's
mansion?
definitely
Like, are you
homeless
kidding me?
people and stuff like that. So I haven't been yet because I don't know. It's something that I don't think anyone would bother you, but at the same time, you know, that's one that you would have to go during the day, pretty much.
Yeah, I'd say so. Cause a mansion, I think that's completely open. I think I think you're asking for like, for homeless people to be there. Honestly, like that seems like a hot spot if I was to guess, but I guess I wouldn't know. But that seems like somewhere they would want to go to me. I think the chances of you seeing another person just does entirely depend on what it is. Cause like, if it's a house, I don't know. I don't know if like, I feel like a house is less likely than like some building, like I don't know, some building like that used to be a store or something like that that was abandoned. I feel like those places are more likely to have like uh just people roaming around in there, be like homeless or maybe cult activity. Who knows? Because I've heard some stories of some. I don't know if some people fake this stuff to be funny or what, but there's people have found like literal pentagrams with like candles that were lit like not that long ago, uh like in rooms and stuff. I don't know if that stuff is like,
Well,
I don't
I
know. Like,
I would play devil's advocate on that and say like that doesn't necessarily mean anything negative. That's more conditioning than it is anything fact based. Like beliefs are beliefs. I mean, that's not any
yeah,
different than any other belief. Like someone who practices like Wicca or something, they're just as likely to be a decent person than
yeah.
a Christian is. Like
Well, if they're
realistically.
practicing, I imagine they're practicing this stuff in these random buildings because they don't want to be scolded for their beliefs. Because, you know, you go around drawing pentagrams and can't lighting candles, people aren't gonna take kindly to that, probably. So they probably do what they gotta do, I assume, I guess.
I never really understood the witch hunt type of thing and all the
Yeah, it's
negativity
always,
connected with it
I mean,
for no
movies always
reason.
make, like, you know, that kind of stuff. If anything, honestly, when you think about it, like, if these people that are setting up, like, religious practices in random abandoned buildings and stuff, if they have to do that, uh, unless they're doing something malicious, I assume they're minding their own business, which is what it seems like. But that's kind of sad in a way, because they can't openly, uh, have the beliefs they have and do the practices they do. That's if they're not doing something malicious.
Yeah, and I mean,
If they are, then that's a different story.
I'm sure there's a fair amount to that because some ceremonial magic and stuff like that. You can make a mess, and hey, maybe you literally just don't want to make a mess with paint or salt or even candle wax or whatever you'd be using that might make a mess. You don't want to fuck up your own house,
Right.
so
That
you
is
just go
true.
to
Yeah, I
somewhere
guess that
that
makes sense.
you think, hey, I can make a mess here, and it could literally be as something as not wanting to get your carpet dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have to. People act like it's instantly a malignant thing, but I mean, most of that shit is very benevolent, and
Yeah.
most of this shit's about positivity and being a good person. So a lot of it's not that different than Christianity or Catholicism core values.
Yeah.
Like most belief systems core values are don't be a sack of shit.
Yeah. And like I said, if they're minding their business, I don't see anything wrong with it. Now, if they're if they're killing dozens of full-grown dogs and collecting them, that's kind of wrong, but that's
Yeah,
different.
that probably goes down to mental health or
Yeah.
edgelords, because no,
I don't know about edgelords, because, like,
there's very few like death cults and shit like that, and
yeah, right.
shit that's actually negative and shit like that. I mean, that's pretty much
I mean, that doesn't even
non-existent.
seem like a religious thing, unless you see, like, I mean, I guess it could be, but, like, uh, I think that is more along the lines of, like, this
That's more
person needs help.
cultish, you know.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
that's pretty much like cultish horror movie shit.
Yeah,
I
literally.
don't
That is
necessarily
literally,
know how much, or literal serial killers, and it's like,
yeah, that's literally a horror movie plot.
yeah,
Like,
or people that are real bad off drugs and are just fucking doing stuff because they're off their mind because they've hit the fatty
yeah,
pack thousands of times and done bath salts
yeah,
thousands
I
of
don't know.
times, and
That
their
just bothers me to
their
think
brain's
about,
just fucking gone.
like, why someone would be doing the same thing over and over and over again by themselves. Or maybe they're not by themselves. I guess you wouldn't know that. Maybe it's multiple people. But
Well,
either way,
all you have to do is look at cities like San Francisco, Portland, LA, you know, Seattle, and you look at the homeless encampments and the homeless crisis going on there, and just how the homeless people act around there, and they act like, I just listened to a story from a different podcast. It's just called like Reasonable News, I believe. Pretty good podcast. You should check it out. But he was covering a story that happened, I think, in California, but it was a homeless guy literally shitting on the ground and throwing it at a business owner.
what?
Yeah,
What the fuck, dude?
and that's like normal. Like that's normal. That's like a everyday thing. Worse stuff happens. So if those are the people, and those are going to be the people that we both live in a colder climate, so you see less homeless people out in the winter because they
Yeah.
find places to go. So, if you're wandering around, your likelihood to go in somewhere and then find someone in a city like Cincinnati or Chicago or Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, any state pretty much like above Kentucky, you're kind of, you're gonna find homeless people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's probably honestly, a pretty common thing for these people to just be in these abandoned places. I mean, where else are they gonna go, honestly? So
Yeah, well,
it's
I
not
even
really.
have first R.I.P. Terry, my cousin's dad was homeless for quite a while. Fell on some real rough times in his life, and this past winter, they found him in an abandoned building, frozen to death.
Damn.
So, I mean, imagine you're going, it's an abandoned building, you're going to explore it, and then I'm sure that's how he was found, because I doubt it was just like cops, oh, we're going to check this random abandoned building.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, it was probably someone who checks up on the building, like a maintenance person or someone that owns it, and they go and check on it once every like 6 months or something, or someone breaking into an abandoned building, seeing someone deceased laying there, and then you gotta check out some old shit and then just find dead people. I mean,
Yeah.
that probably happens more than you would think.
I mean, there's been a lot of people, maybe not a lot, but there's been a few people I've heard that have found like human skeletons, and some of these people have reported what they found, and they will have accidentally solved a missing persons case, like by chance, just by accident, walking into somewhere no one hasn't been there in years. You walk in there, you see two people. Turns out those two people have been missing for who knows how long, and that's an actual thing that happens. Like, and then yeah, they're just like, wow, if you guys weren't randomly exploring, we would not have found, solve this case. And like that's happened before, which is kind of
Yeah,
insane.
that's pretty crazy. And also, you get a lot of paranormal stories out of these kind of stories and people going exploring things. I know
Yeah.
I watched a video of a guy who there was basically a subdivision that was started, and it was like pretty nice houses, pretty nice subdivision, and it was pretty much inaccessible. It was like in the woods somewhere, and I think they didn't even have an access road to it because like they were building the subdivision like in the woods, like pretty deep, and then just I don't know, it looked like they got a fair amount of houses up, and there might have been a road to it, but I think it had grown over, and it was basically this subdivision was just abandoned, and even some cars you just see like it literally just looked like there was people that lived there, and then they just decided to pack all their shit up and leave in one day. And he actually was like he took a coat out of one of the house. So he goes in one of the houses. It's clearly abandoned. He goes up in a bedroom and takes a coat and a hat, and he leaves the house, goes to a different house, and is in a house across the way, and sees people in the fucking house that he was just in, and he showed it on camera,
Oh
and you
my
could literally see
god.
silhouettes of people.
What
And
the fuck? That's
of
creepy as
course,
hell.
he started freaking out, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" I was just in there. We checked everywhere. They went in every room, and there was no one in there. And then he goes back in there and puts the hat and coat back and then leaves. And I think he went down the road and checked out another one and was like literally talking about it the whole time, basically saying like how he was like just super freaked out. And
Yeah, it's creepy as hell. I mean, there definitely is some paranormal stuff with that, cuz I've seen, who was I watching? Oh yeah. There's this guy called, I think his name is Abroad in Japan. Have you heard of him?
I am not sure.
Well, I think him and like
Did
another
he
YouTuber.
explore an amusement park
Did he? Are
in
you asking?
Japan? Because I've watched, and it also I guess depends like what you're exploring too. Because like you know, think of horror games. How many horror games are based off of a haunted amusement park that's abandoned? Like I could think of
Yeah.
like at least 3 off the top of my head. So
Yeah,
like,
that's I think that would be cool to actually go to one of those, but that is definitely creepy as hell. Like for a
and
fact.
like subway system or something, or tunnels, anything
That too.
underground or has the
Yeah.
chance to be underground, just typically scares the shit out of people.
Yeah, for sure. But that guy I brought in Japan, he was exploring him and another YouTuber. They were exploring a school, an abandoned school, I think. And this guy, he does nothing horror related. He never fakes videos or anything. He doesn't do skits or anything like that. And there was a person that shows up in the background of the footage behind him and the other guy he was with multiple times, like at least twice. They saw this person in the background, and they couldn't really make out any features or anything. But he said the room in the footage, the one time they see this person, they were in a room that had one way in and one way out. So if they had seen this person, like if they went in, they obviously would have seen this person, and then they left that room, and all of a sudden there's a person behind them in that room. So that was really creepy. It was like, what
That's
is that?
this is kind of off topic. That reminds me of all like the when you watch YouTube, you end up seeing TikTok trends because people upload that shit to YouTube, and I've seen a lot where people like are flashing lights in like a closet or like a room, and then something that has stuff around, and then you eventually just kind of like start seeing something. It kind of reminds me of that
What do
type of
you
thing.
mean? Like flashing lights and then like what do you
Like the
mean by
flash
that?
light of the room, and then like eventually in the dark you'll finally see like something staring at you or something.
What? I've never heard of that.
But that just reminded me a lot of that. I mean, you wouldn't be scared at the time because you wouldn't realize it and notice it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
looking back at the footage, I'm sure it would make your like skin crawl.
I feel like that's almost creepier than seeing it in the moment, because like when you see it in the moment, you think immediately, you're probably like, I'm gonna get out, like I'm gonna leave now. But then if you see it in the past, it's like you see it and you still were walking around in that same place with whatever that is for who knows how long. And that thought kind of bothers me more, to be honest.
Yeah, and then there are some things that are not paranormal at all. Like Cincinnati has an abandoned mall that a lot of people have explored, and it's pretty cool. It only has like 3 stores that are still open. So I mean, it's a massive mall that's just like pretty much entirely empty.
And they let people just go in there.
Well, I wouldn't say let people, but yeah, it's not
Okay.
hard to get. It's not hard to get in there.
That's usually how it is. It's usually like if you try hard enough, you can get in. But if you just like, I
Well,
don't know.
I don't think people think about this when they think all urban exploration and stuff like that. But urban exploration is very heavily touristized. Like, it's a huge tourist pool. Think of all the abandoned like psych psychiatric hospitals and
Yeah.
abandoned jails that do tours and do overnight
Yeah, that's
stuff,
true.
and like, oh, can you last a night at Waverly Hills Sanatorium?
Yeah.
Like, and that's urban exploration at it, like pretty much like prime examples of it, because
Yeah.
when you're doing it, you're 9 times out of 10 exploring abandoned warehouse, business, you know, hospital,
Yeah.
house, mansion, you're exploring something. And I guess you could say, like, you can't really say, like, walking around the woods because that's not urban exploration. Like,
Yeah.
it pretty much fits it to a T. And it's pretty well popularized and publicized. I mean, you have shows like Ghost Adventures
Yeah.
that's the whole premise, is walking around, abandoned places that are supposedly haunted. And
Hospitals freak me out to no end. Like,
it's always crazy to me how much that is left behind. Like
right, yeah.
houses and pretty much anything. like you'll just sometimes shit'll be like they just picked up and left yesterday, and everything will. People have been respectful. I guess it depends. Like if people have been respectful of the place, then sometimes you go and look at stuff and it's like no one, no one left. They're just out getting groceries or something, and no one's been there in like 30 years. So
Yeah.
and then other places you go and then they're just trash because people are disrespectful as fuck and just fuck with stuff.
Yeah.
But it is crazy to see how some of these things, it's like, wow, this has been abandoned for 35 years, and it looks like a normal house, and it's like, why did they leave? Like, it really makes you kind of crave the story behind it.
Yeah, isn't that kind of crazy when it's like, it looks like they just left everything? Like, they didn't bring a single thing? Like, that's the weirdest thing to me. It's like, what did they, like, disappear? Like, what happened? It's weird when it's like that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crazy, honestly.
There was one. There was, there could be a completely normal explanation for this. I don't know, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. These people were exploring this house, and they found a drawer that had literally like 50 Polaroid pictures of different women. Some of them were kids, like teens, I guess, and some of them weren't. And it was just like a shot of them like looking at the camera, completely just stone faced. They weren't smiling. Like say you take a picture of your kids or something, you want them to smile or something, right? Or maybe you'll be in the picture with them, right? No, this was just pictures of random women looking at the camera with a stone face, like, and there was like 50 Polaroid pictures. It was a ton of them, and they actually took some of the pictures with them. I don't know. I don't really know why. I guess they just wanted to keep something, but I thought that was really strange because it's like,
Yeah, that sounds super weird.
why, what is the explanation? Why would someone have that many pictures? Like, what
Yeah,
would be the reason for that?
that kind of sounds pretty serial killerish to me.
It does. It really does. Like I said, it could be like, I can't even think of something. But oh, that person, because I'll have to do some mental gymnastics to find a normal thing. What reason why someone will be doing that? Like, oh, maybe that person was a photographer. It's like, that person's not a photographer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, those people would be smiling, or there would be other people in the pictures. Each and every picture had one woman in it.
Or it'd be organized. Like if you're like an artist and you're, making like a piece where the whole point is just showing, normalness
Yeah.
instead of like being fake happy or whatever. But
Right,
even
yeah.
then, it wouldn't just be Polaroids in a random drawer.
Yeah, wouldn't it be in like a what do you call it? Like a binder or like a oh my god, why am I forgetting the word? Portfolio kind of thing, like just in a, I don't know, a book, something. They were just literally littered in a drawer. It's like, that's so weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I don't understand it at all. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's like, it was a story someone told on Reddit. It was like, that's one of the weirdest things to find. Like, yeah, the dogs being dead, the cats and dogs in a pile, that's weird too. But
I would say that's pretty damn weird, man. I don't know.
no, it is. But it's also like, you can't find an explanation for either of those things. The closest thing I could think of is that, I mean, that person just really liked taking pictures of people. I don't know. That's but the dogs in the house is like, or the building is like, that person's clearly just like has some mental illness going on. Because it'd be a little less weird if it was the same. Say it was like just 3 women instead of like 50. Uh, you could say like, oh, maybe those are their family members or something.
Yeah, I mean, to open up a drawer, and honestly, one thing that would kind of scare people, you would think, is the fact that you could be maybe indicated in, basically someone trying to say that you committed a crime, or getting connected to something that happened a long time ago that all of a sudden your DNA is on a crime scene.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's kind of worrying because it's like, oh yeah, I may have just touched a serial killer's belongings.
Yeah, I mean, what's worse than that?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they would probably know you weren't actually a part of it, because it's like you're touching this like probably years after someone has ever touched it before, and I feel like they would know like, oh, clearly, like these people were not a part of whatever this person was doing. All right, so these two guys went into a house, an abandoned house, and there was the first floor was littered with trash everywhere, and the second floor above them there was a hole in the ceiling, like a big hole, like the floor fell or something. So they could see past the second floor up to the ceiling of the second floor, if that makes sense. So they're just like, okay, that's weird that there's a bunch of trash in here, but it's an abandoned building. Of course, it's gonna be trash, I guess. So they go up to the second floor, and they look down, and they realize the trash is organized like very specifically. Like it was like kind of like a cross with like pieces of trash being on each corner of the cross. Like it was very deliberate, and it could not have just somehow, some way, coincidentally been that way. So they basically got out of there immediately, and when they were leaving, they were running, and one of them looks back and they see a person, what looked like an old lady, like looking at them while they're running away. So that's a really weird story too, because it's like, why? That's another thing that's like, I guess that's a mental illness thing, because why is this person just organizing trash? What are you doing? That's such a disturbing thought. Why is this person doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so many different cases of them finding stuff and then others where they don't. Typically, I feel like I like the ones where they explore abandoned mansions before, or when they explore abandoned mansions, just because before you can just see how much money was put into it, and a lot of times, like, this stuff's still relatively good shape.
Yeah, it's just like dusty.
And then, yeah,
That's
you
about it.
just see it's like, wow, this is just a really nice house that no one is claiming, and the longer it sits, the harder it's going to be to fix all this stuff. Whereas, like, it was probably pretty nice, and you would
Yeah,
think that
right.
all that stuff would just depreciate in value to where it would be worth living in. But I guess not. I don't know what makes something become straight up just abandoned.
I don't know, honestly, because like I never really thought about it. Like, what makes something like, what does it just sit there and like no one, no, like the person leaves or the people leave, and then just no one does anything with it ever again? Like, how does that work? Shouldn't, like, you would think someone would move in or something, right? Especially a mansion. I don't know. I have no idea how that works. How something just becomes abandoned like that.
Yeah,
Like a huge mansion. Like, that's kind of crazy.
that's crazy. I mean, around here, there's a subway that people explore. There are, um, there are like sanitary stations with like piping that was like sewer pipes that are dried up that people explore.
Yeah, I would, if I found some. I mean, yeah, if I found something weird like this, some of these people, I'd be so out of there. But I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I guess
mean,
that's better than you meeting a crackhead homeless person, I guess. So
yeah, I mean, those type of places, you kind of just have to have a piece on you, or have a knife, or have
For
something.
sure, yeah. You gotta have like something on you for a fact. I wouldn't go into any of those places just unarmed, honestly.
And yeah, some, like, I do remember watching something where they were like in an abandoned factory, and it was somewhere it had been like reclaimed by the woods, and there were fucking coyotes and wolves wandering around while
Oh
they were in
god.
there, and they were in there at night, and it was like, I mean, you're fucking trapped with wolves at that point.
Yeah, that's like horrible. I mean, I don't know what the likelihood of them like hurting you is, but I mean, you're in their territory at that point, so I wouldn't put it past them.
I just sent you the episode with the pink room.
Okay. I wish I knew that video where they found that dead body. It's probably, honestly, probably like taken down because I don't think you can show stuff like that.
No, I think I was trying to find where there was the neighborhood with the guy basically seeing someone in the window after he was already in the house and then
Yeah,
left.
did you
And
find that?
no, I can't find it anywhere, but I found the pink room and a bunch of other ones.
Oh, okay.
And that when I was looking, I saw a couple that they found dead bodies. Like, it was literally just there.
Okay. Yeah, I thought like I feel like they're pretty ballsy for showing that. Well, I guess if they didn't, no one would believe them, right? So they'd be like, "You're lying." I think the ones that get to me the most is like hospitals and like institutions and stuff like that. That for some reason those are so creepy.
Well, I used to play this point and click adventure game, and I can't remember what it was called. Ex Mortis.
Oh yeah, that game.
And I just remember the church scene in it, and I just kind of remember it being like pretty fucking creepy. And every time I see a church that's abandoned, I just think of that.
I remember looking at that game. It looked pretty creepy.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty creepy game, but that kind of is urban exploration, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're one of these YouTubers who do that like often, you're bound to find something that's weird, like for sure.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Well, guys, this is Lucid Rain. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you guys next time.